Hello and welcome to Heartrepreneur TV. I'm your co-host Velma Gallant. Super excited to have you here today. We have a very special guest to share with you and a very interesting topic for you as well. Something that I think just about every one of us has to deal with on at some point in our life and probably quite frequently. So our show title today is Don't Manage Your Stress. Now that sounds a little bit weird, and we're going to get into why that sounds so weird. Our special guest today is Linda Easthouse. Linda is a holistic life coach specializing in stress management. She is an energy medicine professional, radionics master, and best-selling author. With nearly 20 years experience as a natural bioenergetic specialist, she helps people change their lives so that they can meet their goals. Using therapies that restore the body, mind, and spirit, she assists people to take control of their stresses, establish healthy patterns, and gain control over their success and health. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So I'm really excited and curious about this topic. And my first question for you is, why did you name this Don't Manage Your Stress? Because the first thing that I think of is I need to manage my stress.
That's what everybody thinks. And I tell people don't manage your stress because when you are managing your stress, it means you're still holding on to it and trying to figure out how to deal with it. I don't want you to manage it. I want you to let go of it. I want you to not be controlled by it. I want you to be able to be yourself in the face of it, to not be thrown out of a loop, not thrown into fight or flight by the environment and the things around you that cause you stress. And so don't manage it, let go of it.
Okay, that begs the next question. How the heck do we let go of it? Because it seems to show up often.
Absolutely. The key is a term we call resonance. When something's going on, it has a vibration. We all know the vibe. You feel something that vibes bad or good or whatever. Well, unless that vibration synchronizes and vibrates with you, it's not going to do anything. As long as you're not in tune with what's going on, it won't bother you. You won't react to it. It won't set you into fight or flight. However, when there are past experiences, history, beliefs, mindsets, things that put you into resonance with that stress around you, then it sets you off just like a guitar string gets set off by a matching guitar. When you think about what's in me vibrates with what's outside of me, now I'm feeling all that stress. If what's in me goes, oh, that's a different note, I don't need that one, then you can observe what's going on outside of you and it doesn't matter.
Okay. So we want to be out of tune.
No, we want to be out of resonance with the things that we don't like. We want to be in tune with the things that will benefit us and help us to stay in harmony and peace and calm.
I was being cheeky there.
I feel that.
Okay. So that does make sense to me. And so what came up for me when you were talking about that was there have been times in my experience where someone says something with an obvious intention of trying to get my goat, and it just kind of washes off of me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually get my goat. It doesn't poke me. It just washes off of me. So that seems to me that when I've had those experiences, I was in tune with myself and not in tune with the words that person was throwing at me.
Exactly. If there isn't something inside of you for it to hook on, to vibrate with, you can just let it wash off you like water off a duck's back, and it won't affect you in the same way. They can't get to you in that way unless there's something in you that vibrates with it.
Got it. So for me, in that particular instance, that was with an ex-partner, an ex-husband, and that was a high conflict divorce. So previous to that experience, he could say those things that would poke me and get my goat and get me all riled up. And, of course, I've done a lot of work over the years to get to that point where it doesn't bother me anymore. where if he says something, I can just respond with a simple noted and I'm complete. What are some ways that we can support ourselves to have fewer of those places where those hooks can get in?
That's a great question, because there's lots of things related to that. And an understanding of how our biofield works. Our biofield is our whole energetic system that is all of us, that is not just the physical part. So we all have, often people will talk about it as an aura, but the aura has many other spiritual and philosophical and other connotations to it. Whereas when we talk about the biofield, we're talking about the electromagnetic flow that runs through the system. And you have a boundary that makes you, you, and outside of that, not you. And so everything that's inside that boundary is part of you. And that is controlled through what we call the energy centers, or the energy organs, often historically known as chakras, and the biofield. And each of those has a different resonance, a different frequency that it vibrates at. And so as we clean and synchronize and harmonize all of that, those other things simply have no door open to come in with. And so part of it is really doing that work for ourselves of releasing whatever's on the inside of us that can vibrate with them. And we can do that through sound therapies. We can do that through natural bioenergetics, which is one of the meridian therapies, where we're working directly on the traditional Chinese medicine meridians, because those are the ones that send the energy flows around the body. Those are the channels that allow light and information in particular to travel. And through using this information process, we can shut down the buttons that people use to push on us. So you've had a past experience of something that was high conflict, that was nasty, that was whatever. And you go into the meridian and you allow it to retune to a different place, using the acupressure points, using some programmed stones, using the tools that we have. There are many different ways to do it. The way is not nearly as important as the process of getting it retuned. And once it's retuned, then it's on a different frequency. So when you experience the same environment, the same stress, your body can go, oh, yeah, that doesn't really resonate with me anymore. I don't need to react to that, as opposed to, oh, that's exactly what's happened to me, and off you go. And it's simply using the tools that we have. There are lots of protocols with it. There are many things that you can do for yourself. We have a lot of self-help teaching things that we do for people to help you regulate yourself. It's really about regulation. But most of what you hear in the marketplace these days about regulation, they're talking about nervous regulation. So we include nervous regulation, but what we're really talking about is biofield regulation and your meridian system staying regulated so that the information flow doesn't get disrupted. Because when your information flow gets disrupted, that's when you go into stress. So what we really want to do is create that system where we know how to regulate our energy, not just our nerves, regulate what's going on in our brain, not just our nerves. And it looks like we lost someone. And once you get it regulated, then you don't have to be in process with those stresses. And we'll hope that Velma gets back on here. I don't know whether I left or she left, but somebody got kicked out here. So we'll see. Hopefully you're still seeing me, and we'll just carry on. It says we're live. Okay. All good.
Sorry about that. My internet went down. I have no idea.
No worries. I saw it and I just carried on. We're good.
Okay, good. And unfortunately now I'm the one who's out of the loop with the conversation.
Well, I was just going to give them one quick way to help regulate their meridian system and their nervous system, which you might need, because I presume that kind of set off a little bit of stress in doing that. And that is, you take your right hand and you stick it on your upper breastbone here, not the heart, just the upper breastbone here. And then you tap in a circle just around the upper breastbone fairly firmly, going up to the throat and around. And just tap that fairly firmly. Your thymus gland is underneath there. And your thymus gland is the master gland that tells all your hormones to set off stress or to shut down stress. And sometimes when it gets overwhelmed, it just kind of shuts down and does nothing. So all we're doing here is saying, hey, wake up, I need you. Pay attention, get things back to work. And within about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, maybe a minute, you'll feel yourself just regulate down and come back into homeostasis, and you'll feel like that stress is just rolled off.
Okay, that was really interesting. Okay, so that was planned.
I planned to show a couple of little self-regulation things here. And since we were talking about stress, I just thought this is a good place to throw it in.
That is perfect. That is really perfect, because I can tell you the look on my face, none of you saw it, but the look on my face when I saw my internet go down was, I was a bit stressed. I was worried. I was worried about the impact, one, on what this particular stream is going to end up being like for our members inside of the Facebook. And it was like, am I going to get back in there? Is it going to come back in time? What am I going to do about this? How do I fix this? Do I need to reschedule this? You know, all of that stuff going on. So that was really quite interesting that it ended up that way. I know this location, I've heard it referred to as high heart. As well.
Yeah. But the reason is because the thymus and the heart are so closely linked. It's a sort of, on the meridian system, it's kind of like a sub point of the heart. And so we can access it much more easily, and we use it to then send signals throughout that whole meridian that runs through the whole system. So it's just a way of bringing the system back online, bringing the regulation into it. When the thymus is functioning well, all of the meridians will just run their circles properly and go through the entire circuit correctly. And when they're all running properly, then you feel in homeostasis, you feel calm, you feel regulated, and it takes you out of fight or flight.
So the thymus is kind of like the brain of the meridians?
Correct.
Or the heart of the meridians?
A little bit of both, actually. It kind of runs both processes, yeah.
Okay.
Because we know we have the heart, we know we have the brain, and we know that's a great deal of connection to them. The heart actually has more energy and frequencies than the brain does. The brain is really just like a connection station where everything gets connected. But the thymus is really kind of what runs those two together. It's the center point between the two ends. And when your thymus is functioning well, then it just keeps everything else running well. Kind of like the control house for the railroads.
Okay. So are there certain meridians that impact our stress more than other meridians, or are impacted by stress more?
Not really, in that different stresses will impact different meridians.
Okay.
But each meridian can be highly accessed by it. We have what we call the central, or the there are many different names in English for what is the Chinese meridian, but the central one that runs up the front of the body and ends just below the lip there. That central one controls how all of the different systems in the body work together. And the governing one starts at the tailbone and comes up and over the head and ends above the lip there. So it's kind of the whole core in a circle, right? And that one controls how all the organs talk together. So if one of those two go out, either your systems are down or your organs are down, that's probably more important than a lot of the other ones. But one of the things that is helpful to understand is that meridians are named after an organ, but it isn't about the physical organ. It's about the function of that organ. So we have what we call the lung meridian. It's not just about the lungs. It does include the lungs, but the function of the lungs is respiration. So everywhere from cellular respiration to you actually breathing oxygen in and out, and everything in between is controlled by that meridian. That meridian is associated with grief. Every meridian has an associated emotion. So when you are in grief, then that whole system around the meridian of respiration is going to slow down or get damaged or get blocked or stopped, or in some cases get over hyperactivated. And then we have trouble processing grief properly. And so it's all interconnected. We're this wonderful whole of pieces that work together. And what we want to do is keep the system running smoothly. And that's what we do when we turn off the stress responses. And so sometimes it'll be a particular meridian, but every meridian is associated with a different emotion. So it depends on what emotion has put you into fight or flight, that as to which meridian will be affected by it. So if you're struggling with anger or frustration or fear, you might get different meridians. If you're struggling with letting go of things, not releasing things, that's a different meridian. That's your large intestine. If you're struggling with processing and digesting emotions, that's your small intestine. And so we have all these. There's 7 major pairs of meridians, including the central and governing, and each represent a different emotion. And so depending on what emotion you're processing, it will affect your body differently, and you'll see different strains and physical responses to it.
So one of the things that I've been processing a lot lately is fear has been feeling to me just like a suppressed other emotion. I don't know how else to explain it, but when for example, if I'm feeling fear about something in particular, I find that often there's an underlying emotion that is there, such as anger, or it might be grief, but I'm finding for myself more often than not, it's anger. I'm just going to be straight with you on that one.
That's very common these days, by the way.
Well, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone with these things. I mean, anger is something that a lot of people are processing for a variety of different reasons. So I think when it comes to that, are there things that, like, okay, so which meridian is anger?
Okay, well, let's go this way.
Okay.
When you're feeling fear, the way to process that is sit back, take some deep breaths, and just kind of scan through your body. Where are you feeling something changed? Where do you have stress? Where do you have tension? Where do you have pain? Where do you have tingling sensations? Where do you have numbness? Where do you have a physical sensation, which is technically a feeling? Feelings are physical sensations. Where is that? And once you've identified where it's stuck, then just kind of breathe into that area and see what appears. It might be a color. It might be a memory. It might be a feeling. It might be a thing like anger or whatever, and allow that to come up and kind of put it on a board in front of you so you can look at it as if you were looking at it from a distance. Just let it sit out there and see what it tells you, and then figure out how you need to deal with that. And depending on where it is in the body, which meridian it's related to, then we can work on that meridian to retune your stress around that. That will release whatever anger is in there, and it will release the fear that goes with it, and then you can let it go.
Okay. So while you were talking about that, I went from fear to anger to powerlessness. And
that anger and powerlessness are opposite sides of the spleen meridian.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I have no idea where the spleen is, but I'm feeling it somewhere in my upper gut.
It's underneath the ribs on the left side. Like your liver is on the right side, your spleen is just at the bottom of the ribs on the left side.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So yes, that where you were touching there is exactly where your spleen is.
Okay.
Our body always knows, and it will let us know. It'll tell us if we can get our minds quiet enough to observe. And that's the thing that most people these days are not taught to do anymore. We don't have this ability to step back and look at ourselves. We're very good at looking at others. We're not so good at stepping back and looking at ourselves and taking kind of that third person observer and just saying, what's going on here? As opposed to, oh, there's this problem, there's that, and all the judgment, and just to be able to step back and observe what's happening for us, and do it at a space of curiosity and the ability to recognize that, oh, there's something there. I wonder what that's related to. And allowing ourselves to let the body talk and let the body tell us things that we have taken out of our conscious mind. And that's the big thing about stress, is stress responds primarily from our unconscious process. I know people make this big difference between conscious, unconscious, and subconscious. To me, they're a related spectrum as opposed to 3 different things. They're really a continuum. And so where those lines change will move back and forth significantly. But when you encounter something in your environment, or you have a thought, or something happens to you, somebody touches you or hits you, or a box falls on your foot, or whatever happens, you have two processes that happen immediately. One is the physiological process that sends a message up to the spinal cord to say, hey, we've still got connection to the brain, we're still okay here. That neurological integrity of response between the two parts of the body. And then the second, which is slightly slower, sends a message up to the limbic brain to say, is this a threat to me or I'm okay here? Because the limbic brain will scan through everything that's ever happened to you, every experience you've ever had, and go, oh, that's fine. Yeah, not a worry. Or, ooh, we've had that happen a lot of times and you had a big problem with it. That's a big problem. Going to panic here to set off the fight or flight. And so your body runs those two simultaneous processes, and that will determine how you're going to respond to it. Mm-hmm. However, we can override that automatic process. We can let the brain go, and the brain goes, oh, that's a problem. And we can go, well, actually, you know what? It's probably not. I know how to deal with that differently now. And bring in a conscious thought around it. We don't have to be run by our subconscious process. And a lot of people call it mindset work or belief work. And in some ways it is. There is a lot of that involved in it, but I think it's a different level than what most mindset work is done at. Because what we want to do is change that tuning in the actual energy system, not just in the brain. The mindset work works in the brain. What we want to do is take it out of the brain and put it into the whole meridian system. So wherever the meridian is creating a problem over that, we retune it, get that meridian holding strong so that it can maintain balance in the face of the same stress, so that you can be in the exact same environment, the exact same stress, and not respond the same way.
Okay, so I know for myself, I've done a lot of belief work for myself, and I do a lot of belief elimination inside the work that I do. That has me wonder, because when I eliminate a belief, I do feel a change in my body. It makes me wonder if I'm working from the outside in, like talking in that my particular process, working from the outside in. Can it be also from the inside out, like working on the meridian itself to create those kinds of changes as well?
Yes, and that's how we work in natural bioenergetics and most of what I do with radionics and other things. And what we find is when you work from the inside out, it's much faster and it's much more permanent. Like you do it once instead of 55 times.
Okay, because that makes sense.
That work, you have to do it over. You have to keep repeating it. You have to build it. You have to strengthen it. That's what we call tuning something. You can tone it. You can make it stronger. You can exercise it, and eventually it'll get there. Mm-hmm. Or you can just fix the problem in the first place, and then it's just not going to happen again.
Okay. So I've observed in the belief work that I have done that belief is eliminated, and at the same time there are still cousins that are often hanging out that aren't necessarily taken care of. So I can see, like, I know the work that I do works faster than, say, for example, mantras and that kind of thing, which can be a very slow tune, right? So that's really interesting. Okay.
And I think for a lot of people, it's wise to do both. You do the internal work that changes it, but you still have to bring it up into your consciousness so that you can catch yourself when you get bad thinking going on. And it's fine to change it internally in the meridian system and in your energy system, and it will work its way out into the conscious as well. But I think doing the conscious work at the same time or immediately afterwards simply speeds that up and brings it into a much more robust process in the end. I think doing both of them is really effective. I think doing the internal work first is the fastest way. You can get there with the other, but it takes a lot more effort.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I know that. So one of the beliefs that I eliminated a couple of years back was that I can't trust myself. And I got to tell you, when that one's taken care of, a lot of things open up. And it also ends up revealing a lot of other things that I get to heal as well.
Yeah.
Um, Out of curiosity, is there a meridian that would be associated with trust, like the feeling of trust, the
Yes.
experience of trust?
Yeah, that's your central meridian. That's that one right up the front. One that
Oh,
runs through the gut and the
interesting.
heart and the thymus and the throat. And yeah, that one's associated there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because as when that belief was eliminated and as it's continued to strengthen, I feel straighter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to explain it, but I feel straighter and I feel more like like I do have a thicker spine. Like I feel stronger in that. So that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is very interesting. Okay. I know we went down a couple of rabbit holes that were completely controlled by me. And these things actually do all relate to stress. Now, we are a community of a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are in the process of building businesses, and some of them who are in the process of expanding businesses. And that can bring a lot of stress into our lives from a variety of different directions. Do you have any advice, recommendations for these entrepreneurs to support them with, strengthening that spine and feeling more confident inside of themselves?
Sure, and that's a really good question. The best advice I give entrepreneurs, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs on their emotional things and on their business building. I have a coaching process specifically for helping you build your business. And it's all about getting yourself clear, dealing with your own emotions, dealing with your own beliefs, and then bringing in the frequencies that will allow you to connect to and attract the things you want. So if you're looking for a particular kind of client, then you need to figure out what's the frequency that they vibrate at and what can you do to put that frequency out so that they find you. How do you send out? We talked earlier about you're affected by things that come in, but it's not just things that come in. You can also be the generator and send things out that other people will come to. And that's what we're really after in business and entrepreneurs, is we need to be the kind of people that our ideal client will find very relatable, very, very attracted to. Like you just vibe together. Some people you meet and you just go, oh, like you just have this instant connection. You need to be that person as the entrepreneur with your ideal client. And you do that by creating the frequencies and vibrations in your own life and in your business and in your process, in your social media, in your website, that sends out that vibe that they go, oh, hey, that's what I want. I resonate with that. I like that. And they'll just naturally be attracted to you. And so resonance is not just about you staying out of resonance with things you don't like. It's also you staying in resonance with the things you want to have, and being able to build and create those frequencies. And we can do that with all kinds of tools. There's a lot of essential oils and essences that have frequencies that are tuned very much to the kinds of emotions and thoughts and things that we want to put out in our business. And using those is very helpful. We also actually program stones and create things that hold particular frequencies for people. So they go, I need this, and I'm having a hard time generating it. So we can generate that into a tool, and then they hold it in their pocket, and it helps them come into sync with it, helps them develop that in themselves, helps them create that frequency internally, so that then they naturally radiate it out. And as you
like that.
Yeah. And as you deal with all of your fears, with all of your anger, with all of the things that upset your own balance, then you will naturally begin to vibrate out a frequency that people will find attractive.
I like that a lot. And I love the word you chose of generator. Like that. I like the idea first of clearing, right? Cleaning myself up, right? So that I have a nice, beautiful flow going on there, and then just building on that and becoming a generator of that frequency. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I really like that a lot. Okay, so I want to make sure, because we are at the end of our time. That went way too fast. I want to make sure that
I'll
people
come back if you ask me.
right. I want to make sure that people know how to connect and find you. Now, the first place, of course, is that you will find Linda in Heartrepreneur's Facebook community. You will find her there. As a matter of fact, she's had a conversation with Terry not that long ago inside of the group. So you will find her at Heartrepreneurs on Facebook. One of the great places to find her, though, is at her website. Kind of a weird thought. And that's lindaeasthouse.com. And I know that you're present on social media as well. What are some of the platforms that you hang out with there?
I'm on Instagram, and it's also just Linda Easthouse, very easy to find. I'm on Facebook under Linda Easthouse as well. I do have a private group that I invite people to get a little deeper with. So if you're interested in that, just find me on the standard, profile, because I'm just there under my name. And then I'll be happy to invite you to the private group if you're a fit for what I do and how I work. And I'd love to have conversations with them. They can DM me through that process if they want to have a little deeper conversation with me. I'm happy to have that. I'm also on Signal for those who use that one. Again, just Linda Easthouse. I try to keep it simple and make it all the same, so it's not hard to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Do you have one last closing thought to share?
I think the most important thing is learning how to regulate our energy will allow you to regulate your emotions and allow you to become the kind of person you want to be that generator that makes you the attractive, wonderful business person you want to be. And it all starts with figuring out what's keeping you out of balance and how to eliminate those things that you no longer resonate with them, so that you don't need to hold on to them. You can let go of them. You don't need that stress. You don't need to manage it. You just need to figure out what's the correct vibration to put in instead and replace it with something that works better.
I like that. And that summarized pretty much our conversation in that little bit there. So thank you so much for your time, Linda. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I hope to come again sometime when you invite me.
Awesome. And for those of you out in YouTube land, come on over to Facebook. You can find us at Heartrepreneurs with Terry Levine on Facebook, and you will be able to connect with more heart-based business owners like myself, like Linda, and like Terry. And we look forward to having you here. Thanks, everyone, and have a brilliant day.
Thank you.